Radio Show with your host, Lonnie Clark. We stand together and accept that we now live in a world transformed by Fukushima. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time here on UCY.TV Radio. We relentlessly engage every ear that listens. We expose and confront the complete lack of accountability for the nuclear industry. Consider social engineering programs who view our bodies, minds, and souls as assets on a balance sheet. We discuss vital current issues, interview activists, and engage our audience in an effort to allow all voices to be heard. The Age of Fission radio show creates a venue that all will choose. We encourage our listeners to reclaim their power and their courage to take action and save our planet from the ravages of greed and indifference. Our actions matter. Every voice matters. We remind our listeners that happiness is resistance. Love is greater than fear.
Good morning, UCY.TV radio listeners. This is Lonnie Clark. I hope that you had a happy holiday and a Merry Christmas with your family, or even if you spent it alone, I hope you were not sitting there miserably, because there is a lot to be joyful about. Life is a gift, and this is the interesting thing. We're living in a culture where we're being bombarded by things that make us forget that. It's not, the gifts are not material things. Life is the gift. And we are a unique species that really, we have the capability of manipulating our environment. And not many other species, to the extent that we do, can do that, to the point where we can actually destroy our planet. So I want to welcome you to my radio show today. You're listening to the Age of Fission radio show. Today is January, I'm a month ahead. December 26, 2016, just a few days left. So I think we have fixed the call-in problem, so we have a new call-in number. So if people want to call me and talk about whatever it is on your heart, please give me a call. The number is 718-717-8106, and let's see if that works. So I believe that this will work. I think we figured it out. So in the meantime, I'd like to share with you some information about, how we have been trained to just ignore the effects of nuclear radiation on all of our bodies. Over the weekend, we had a shock what's his name? Michael, I forget his name even. What's his name? It's not Jan Michaels. Anyways, that singer in England died of a heart attack. He's 50 years old. And the reality is, I went online and tried to attempt to figure out where he lived in relation to Sellafield, which is still spewing 9 million, I think it's 9 million liters of radioactive waste into the Pacific. And then I went on the Googles to say, how do you find out which isotopes are harmful to the heart? I've read it several times. Google has that so tied up. You cannot even find it. I was into the third page of searches on Google, and you can't find it. Which leads me to believe that law that Obama passed on Friday about the fake news, they're going to start investigating fake news stories. That means anybody who goes against the party line is going to be considered fake news. This is where our culture has devolved to. And if people do not believe, we need millions of people in the streets. We need millions of people to gather together. And I'm of the mind where I think we really ought to just, start digging in deep with the institutions that have already been developed. I mean, We have Beyond Nuclear, who I think has been too soft pedaling it on the whole thing about Fukushima, but they are an established organization. And, right now they are working with other other organizations to help them stop, like the Fermi plant. They get involved with local people. They are working to stop the Fermi plant, which I don't know if they'll be able to. So we hope so. On December 23rd, Toledo-based attorney Terry Lodge filed a reply brief in defense of a legal appeal originally filed in October at the U.S. Court of Appeals in the District of Columbia Circuit, the highest court in the land, just below the Supreme Court. The reply rebuts the challenges to the appeal brought by the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission and Detroit Edison. The appeal challenges NRC's exclusion of the transmission line corridor from the environmental impact statement, a violation of the National Environmental Policy Act. The appeal also challenges DTE's violations of NRC's quality assurance regulations. Arnie Gunderson of Fairwinds Associates serves as a coalition questions and answers experts. That's a huge statement. If you just read that alone, basically what's happened here is we have the Nuclear Regulatory Commission working to keep open nuclear power plants that are in violation of its own laws, its own regulations, providing exclusions and exceptions for a nuclear power facility that's in violation of its own regulations. And yet, we have to have an attorney, Mr. Terry Lodge, file a brief to go to the Court of Appeal of the District of Columbia Circuit, the second highest court in the land. It's so outrageous. This is the state of affairs of America. So we definitely need every single person engaged. And this information can be found on beyondnuclear.org. If anybody would like to give me a call, the number is 718-717-8296. And we'll see if this will work. We'll see if the phone calls can work. I hope so. One of the things that really was on my heart all weekend long was what is going on with the people in St. Louis still. It is just an outrage that we have passed another year with the people of St. Louis celebrating Christmas next to a nuclear burning dump site, folks. I mean, seriously. The people of St. Louis, I don't know how they do it. They posted something up about, I beg your pardon, a prayer meeting. December 22nd, they had a prayer meeting. So I find this really hard. I mean, I believe in prayer, but I do not understand why the people in St. Louis don't just go park themselves on the governor's lawn, put up some tents and say, we're not leaving until you fix our homes, until you basically evacuate all of us. So the prayer meeting happened on December 22nd at the Machinist Hall parking lot in Bridgeton, Westlake Community Meeting. Now they're going to have a Bridgeton Westlake Community Meeting on January 19th, 2017 at 6:30. So we'll find out exactly what they're saying, but it's beyond comprehension to me how people can just keep ignoring this. They're talking about people passing the buck. If you go to the Westlake landfill page on Facebook, you can read. The people in St. Louis are they are actively engaged in this. It's not like they're not. Many, many, many people know. Many people know about this, and yet still nothing, nothing. The government, and the reason why we're doing it is because of this. We have a nuclear regulatory commission who basically works to poison people. That's essentially what they're doing by keeping the Fermi plant open, by keeping the nuclear power plants in Indiana open. I mean, it's beyond comprehension that we are using our hard-earned tax dollars to pay for the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. And yet they are working to poison us, literally poison us, beyond comprehension. Yet when you talk to people in America about this, they kind of roll their eyes and look at you as if you're like one of those people who want to talk about radiation all the time. I don't want to talk about radiation all the time, but you know who does? God. Let me just talk to you about that one. December 22nd, massive die-off of fish in Xiamen, China. Thousands of crayfish found floating down the river in New Zealand. Hundreds of dead fish washed up in Phuket, Thailand. Tens of thousands of dead fish wash up again in Cornwall, England. Schools of dead herring still washing up in Nova Scotia, still washing up. 200,000 plus chickens killed to avian flu. This is just an outrage. Now, what's interesting is this place, it's called End Times Prophecy, where I read this from. This person really believes that Jesus is coming back really soon, and these are signs of end times. Well, it certainly is a sign of end times. I don't know about Jesus coming back. We just celebrated the supposed birthday of Jesus. But it's definitely, something's definitely ending. And I think what's ending is thriving life on this planet until we get off our asses and put an end to these monsters that are killing it. I mean, there really are a few people on this planet that really have a hand in it all. And until we challenge them, they're just going to keep going. The nuclear scientists, what do they call themselves? The nuclear priesthood. Literally, 1972, that's what they called themselves, the nuclear priesthood. The new phone number, in case anybody wants to call, is 718-717-8106. So it's 717-8106. And I think that phone number will work. I believe that it will anyways. Let me put it to you that way. We're hoping that it'll work because we're trying to get through this thing where we can actually engage you. We discovered it wasn't exactly my phone. It was the other phones. So maybe we've been able to get this through. So I hope so, because it'd be really great to start engaging with my listeners once again. We do have some interviews coming up. As many of you know, I just finished school, and that sort of took up a lot of my time, which prevented me from booking a lot of interviews that I wanted to have. I do have people lined up. I haven't made the dates of when they're going to be coming, but I will get after that this week. This week is all about lining up some good shows for the next month for our station, and actually reaching out to people who haven't talked to me again, because one of the interesting things about this whole fake news story that we have is that people look at internet radio stations as if we're fake news. We interview people like Donna Gilmore, who does not get a voice anywhere. Donna Gilmore will be on with us on the 27th, which is tomorrow. And you can go to her website that she developed called santanofresafety.org. There's a lot of links if you want to get active and find out about how to get active, even in your own area. San Onofre's in Southern California, but she gives you plenty of links, plenty of information on how to get around. Excuse me, folks, I'm going to be going silent a little bit off and on here because I have to cough. I have a bit of a cold, so hold on just a second. Thank goodness for the mute button. Okay, so guess what happened to me yesterday on Christmas? My 4-year-old granddaughter gave me a heart-shaped rock I think it's actually a stone. It looks like a stone made out of what's it called? That jade. I think it's made out of jade. But it has etched in it the word courage, which I thought was interesting because my daughter said she definitely wanted, she read out all the words that were on all the stones, and she wanted to give Grandma the one that said courage, which is interesting because my kids never listen to this radio show, right? And so they have no idea that I tell people to put their courage feet on. So it's quite interesting. Here's Glenn. Okay. Okay, so Glenn just called and said he was going to call, but he wants to hear the information, which, Glenn, you can interrupt the information because it's still going to be there tomorrow. This is the hard part. We are really on a challenge here with all of this information. The challenge is really getting people to actively engage. That's the guy's name, George Michael. That was his name. George Michael died of a heart attack. 53 years old or 50 years old. Like, big surprise. Well, he's probably been flying around a lot. He's probably been eating sushi. I mean, I have to say I'm dumbfounded that people still eat sushi all the time. Eat fish, eat tuna. Tuna's being sold in the stores. We know it's full of cesium-137. They stopped testing it because every fish they tested was contaminated. Seriously, every fish was contaminated. And people are still eating tuna, crossing their fingers, praying to Jesus, hoping it's not going to get to them. It's going to get to all of us, folks. And I think that's what Guy McPherson's whole message is. It's like, yeah, it's going to get to us, but that doesn't mean life is over with. It just means we're going to be seriously challenged. I mean, we live in such a weird time where we can actually see what's going on, and yet people just honestly, they want to pretend like it's not real. So this is the name of his website. He calls his website, it's GuyMcPherson.com, but he calls it Nature Bats Last, meaning no matter what, nature's going to win. It means that we just can't, we can do what we want to do, but it doesn't matter because nature's going to win. And nature is winning, and we can kill off all the animals. We can keep ignoring it, keep doing what we're doing. But let's take a look at what this is. So, I mean, honestly, folks, I do not know how people can just ignore these things. We have the NRC. We have to come up with an acronym what that means, I'll have to be clever. I'm good at acronyms because we can't keep calling them Nuclear Regulatory Commission because they're definitely not. They're not regulating jack. They're regulating death. That's what they're doing. So we have a power plant. Where was that I saw? For today. Potential dangerous component, inoperable, emergency diesel. That's right, power reactor in Cook, Michigan. If you live near there, you need to understand this. They had an accident mitigation. This was dated 2 days ago. And it says Unit 1 maintenance will be prioritized over Unit 2, and Unit 2 will most likely proceed to Mode 5. Mode 5. Because why? With DC Cook Unit 1 in Mode 1 and 100% power, that's the good news. And Unit 2 in Mode 4 during a refueling outage, the following emergency diesel generators were declared inoperable due to a discovered design and manufacturing issue involving some of the diesel fuel pump injectors in each of the following EDGs. This just drives me crazy, these little acronyms, EDGs, emergency diesel fuel generators. They want it so that we don't remember what they are. This is what the Nuclear Regulatory Commission is doing to us, folks. Yeah, you can go to their webpage, try to understand what the heck they're talking about. Now, this is Cook, Michigan. This is in a place where there's millions of people, and they're allowing this nuclear plant to operate. I read today that Columbia Generating Station is coming back online. They've mitigated it. And so that's what made me go to the NRC, was to try to find this announcement. But guess what? It's not there. Definitely not there. They're not telling us. Hmm. The reason that people don't go to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission site is because it makes you nervous. Because you can't. If you have a sane mind and you want to stay that way, I mean, this is a challenge. People ask me that all the time. How do you challenge this? How do you deal with this everyday thing? I don't know how people don't think about it. I walk in the grocery store and I look at the cans of tuna. Frankly, I want to whip out my Geiger counter, which I don't actually own. I actually sent my Geiger counters to some people in St. Louis, to be honest. There were people back there. I had 2 Geiger counters and I sent them to people back east because they need it way more than I do. And people say, well, we can't afford it. They're $500, $600, $700. Well, how much do we pay for our cars? How much money do we put on our credit cards for what? Clothing. And people living right next door to a nuclear power plant can't afford a Geiger counter. Could you imagine what would happen if every household east of the Mississippi had a Geiger counter? Can you imagine what would happen if people everywhere, like where Glenn's at, he's in Paducah. I mean, he probably does know what the radioactive contamination rates are in his area. I mean, we are being bombarded on an unprecedented level, and people are sick. People are really getting sick. My own daughter, 33 years old, is not well. She struggles with issues that are caused, and she got very mad at me for even suggesting this. She lives in Portland, downwind. She's been living in Portland for 12 years now. Now, she was a perfectly healthy child, although we did live in Southern California, not far from San Onofre Nuclear Power Plant, and we did drive past it all the time. My family lived in San Diego. So she was constantly exposed to, very close radioactive contamination driving past it. She's been living in Portland for the last 10 years. And she struggles with issues that are symptoms of low-level radioactive contamination. When I dared to suggest it, she was angry. She had rolled her eyes. She's like, Mom, I don't even want to hear about it. It doesn't matter what caused it. I have to deal with it. True. But I don't get how people can just stay silent living downstream of Hanford and the Columbia Generating Station. Speaking of which, old Elliot Mainzer's office has never called me back, folks. I wonder why. I've called them. Well, I call them at least once a week now. They're on my hit list every week to call and ask them to take Elliot Mainzer to lunch. Heidi Lambert and I want to go to lunch with Elliot Mainzer and bring him information about the urgency of closing the Columbia Generating Station and talking to him about how we can get this done. Yet at the same time, what do we see? I read an article yesterday, and I didn't earmark it, so I couldn't find it again. This is what happens if you don't print it out, you don't earmark your stuff, folks. The stories that tell the truth about the harm that is being done to our country disappear. Yeah, we have the Freedom of Information Act, freedom for one day, boop, and then the Googles decides it's not, might be dangerous for us to know about it. But, yesterday I read that we have the Columbia Generating Station opening up, and, they're just not talking to us about it. This is the bottom line. They are not going to tell us about it. The events that are happening are not going to be declared. Let's go to the public meetings thing. Anyways, with Mr. Elliot Mainzer, let me give you out his phone number because if something happens to the Columbia Generating Station, we've been hit with earthquakes all up and down the West Coast. And if something happens there, we are going to have a catastrophe like nobody's business. And that's one of the things that Obama did just this weekend, was he fired the scientists at the oh my gosh, Department of Energy that wrote a report that said we are being affected by low-level ionizing radiation. So the party line is anybody who says that low-level radiation harms you, you're on the list, folks. Which I hope I'm on the list, because that's the list of being on the right side. Last thing I want to do is be on the same list as Donald Trump and Barack Obama on this issue. And believe you me, Donald Trump is going to click his heels, say Sig Heil, and follow orders to the Pentagon. He is not going to challenge them at all. He has a family to protect and a business to protect. So he is not going to do it. So let's see. Let's go into these. Now, when we go into this is the interesting thing. You go to the NRC webpage. Public meetings and involvement. About meetings open to the public, conferences. It takes documents for comment. Let's see what the documents for comment are, because these are the interesting things. Hold on just a second. Goodness. Okay. Revisions to transportation safety requirement and compatibility with International Atomic Energy Agency transportation requirements. Closing comment period 1/20/2017. Individual monitoring devices for industrial radiographic personnel. That is 1/23/17. That's when it closes. Oh my goodness. Power reactors and extended shutdowns. 2/22/2017. So let me go back to this. I had some windows open and I want to open them, close them back up so we can get to this. Because this is pretty interesting what they're going to be telling us. Hold on, let me see if I can find the page again. Well, you guys, I hope you've had a very Merry Christmas. And I'm sort of shooting on the fly here because it was Christmas, not very well prepared, I do have to admit myself. Okay, so revisions to the transportation safety requirements compatibility with Atomic Energy Agency transportation requirements. Let's see what these monsters are proposing now. Let me see if I can find the open link. Just open it in a new link. Here we are. What does it say? The rule would amend the Nuclear Regulatory Commission regulations in 10 CFR Part 71 to harmonize domestic regulations for Type B in fissile radioactive transportation packaging with the 2012 edition of the IAEA Safety Standard Regulations for the safe transport of radioactive material. So I wonder what that really means. Compatibility. What are they going to allow us? View. Let's see what this says. I don't think they're actually telling us anything. Compatibility between the domestic and international requirements ensures a consistent basis for transport. I don't know about you, but I've seen a few things on the line, and it's pretty scary. So these people make me very nervous. They have no regard for life whatsoever. Yeah, there's no real details on this, as usual with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. They say, yeah, you can find out, but you don't really want to find out, do you? It's like they give us like the evil eye and put us in that hypnotic trance where we're like, no, we don't want to know. Yes, we do, folks. Yes, we do want to know. And this is something we can solve. Even though Guy McPherson says we have 10 years left. That's pretty serious. 10 years left. That's what he's telling us. Elliot Mainzer's phone number is 800-282-3713. If you would call up Mr. Mainzer and ask him to please close the Columbia Generating Station. It is being restarted this week, and we need to have it permanently shut down. They need to move to shut it down. And yes, we do need to buck against the system. We do know that Barack Obama fired a scientist recently who has declared that low-level radioactive contamination is extremely harmful. We do know that on the midnight hour, he signed in legislation that says they can actually go after and spy on fake news stories. You know, the hell with freedom of speech. It's up to people to decide what's real, what's not real, not the government. That's what I think. It's so outrageous. So and Elliot Mazur's phone number is 800-282-3713. And if you think this does not affect you, it does. And I would suggest that looking up in your own area, whatever part of the world that you live in, and find the nuclear power plant that's west of you, because you will be affected by that, and constantly call them and tell them to shut them down. We need real renewable energy in this country, which we could do in a heartbeat. We're not doing it. Why? Because it's not profitable. Why? Because our military wants it this way, because the United States' only product is war. So we use this nuclear fuel to get the plutonium for nuclear weapons. When Trumpy says that we're going to rebuild our nuclear weapon system, yeah, did you see the Google News this morning saying Trump's right, we need to rebuild? It's insane. These people are just completely off their rockers. They're killing our planet and they're doing nothing about it. So if anybody wants to call in today, the number is 718-717-8106. And I do believe that number will work in terms of us being able to connect. I hope so. So I thought I would remind you of some of the absolute awesome work that Dr. John Goffman did. Dr. John Goffman was a professor of medical physics at the University of California, Berkeley, and the former head of biomedical division of Lawrence Radiation Laboratory, Livermore, where he conducted research that showed that nuclear radiation is harmful in any dose to life on our planet. They drummed him out of the business, and he ended up being a professor. Hold on, I have to cough again. Hold on, I apologize. Sorry about that. There's not much I can do about that part. So this is a nuclear power and ecocide, an adversarial view of new technology. This is written by Dr. John Goffman, and there are highlights throughout it. It's a 10-page report that I think I've read on my YouTube channel, but I think maybe I'll read it again. And I want to really read this to you because it really brings it down to where we're at. And I do not, I have to apologize. I did not get the date of when this was printed, but John Goffman died quite a while ago, and I believe that this was created like in the 70s. That's what I think that this was. It says our society is based upon the premise of initiative, innovation, and promotion, all leading to economic profit. And that will, by their very nature, ensure the delivery of goods and services that will steadily upgrade the quality of life for the greatest number. It does seem reasonable to suggest that the extremely viable enterprise we have, with the obvious talents and accomplishments of our scientists and engineers of a variety of specialty disciplines, and the abundant resources and beautiful land, we should easily be able to create this high quality of life for a reasonably sized population in the United States. The present environmental crisis clearly indicates that such a desirable result is anything but automatic. The threats posed by food adulteration, poisonous chemicals of agriculture and commerce, and radioactivity may individually or by synergistic activity guarantee ecocide. Scientists and technology are prominently applied. Science and technology are prominently applied in the service of the established system, whatever to be the privileged currency. And this means that large-scale change comes very quickly and can affect the entire population of the country. And that is what we're seeing, large-scale change, folks. And it is affecting our population. Fukushima is still in complete meltdown. It is still a complete disaster. They have not stopped the fission at Fukushima in those nuclear power plants. And that is why we're here, because this is not that one event rocked the world, because it has not ended. It's not over. We've had a 6-year-long love affair with nuclear pollution, evidently, because people don't pay attention to it. They're like, yeah, that's pretty bad. But I don't know about you, but I have 3 grandchildren. I'm expecting a 4th grandchild. And in the back of my head, I keep thinking about, I wonder how many of my grandchildren are going to make it to adulthood or be like our dear sweet friend Wendy Lumetta, who spent her life having illnesses. And now at 40 years old is struggling to be well and healthy. At 40 years old, she's a beautiful person. She grew up in St. Louis, right next to all kinds of nuclear contamination. And in fact, if we go to the Westlake Landfill Facebook page, that's the hard part, is watch what these people do. Like, watch how these people are responding to this. Because these are just regular human beings, just being human, folks. They're living in a place that has nuclear contamination everywhere. They are living next to a nuclear dump site. Their children get sick. They can't figure out why their children are chronically ill. I mean, we know why they're chronically ill, and now they know. But what are they going to do? They live right next door to a nuclear dump site. And they are determined to fight, fight, fight. So let me read you a post by somebody, and I'll not read the person's name, but it really affected me because this really tells the story. And this is sad. To me, it's very sad, and yet it's encouraging. On our way to family Christmas, the stench hits us as we approach the highway. I tell my kids to grab the masks, and immediately the sadness and anger hit me like never before. Administrator Gina McCarthy, she's from the EPA, as you prepare to leave office, we are left with the fact that you did nothing to protect our families. At Republic Services, you did everything to avoid doing the right thing. We are going through this holiday season with prayer, hope, and faith because, quite frankly, no one can take those 3 things away from us. Amen to you, sister. We will never give those that fight against us the glory to feel as though they are defeating us. We are ready and stronger than ever to enter 2017. Merry Christmas, landfill family. That made me cry when I read that. The first time I read that, it really seriously made me cry. She posted this December 23rd. You know, I don't read people's names when I go to the Westlake landfill page because I feel like I'm invading their privacy. I mean, and in 2017, I definitely plan on reaching out much more aggressively again to the people in the Westlake landfill area and in St. Louis to have them interview. I had Drew Kuhn. Drew Kuhn had his own show for a few weeks. We were hoping that because he lived in St. Louis, he had a better bird's eye view of what was going on there, and it would be much more effective. It didn't work out for him. His show only happened a few times. He had other things going on, and he couldn't keep up the commitment, which was really awesome that he was honest about it and told us right away, which is why I'm now on 5 days a week. But I definitely have not forgotten St. Louis. They're in my heart every single day. And when I read this, it just broke my heart. Because really, that's exactly right. We are going through this holiday season with prayer, hope, and faith. Because quite frankly, no one can take those 3 things away from us. And that's exactly where they're at. I mean, They had a night of prayer on December 22nd at 7 p.m. People stood out in the cold with candles praying. December 21 on the Westlake landfill page. Very stinky tonight at Terracin, reported. December 10th. Yesterday at the Water Tour 1, I asked if water had ever been tested for radionuclides from the taps in homes and businesses around Bridgeton. They responded by saying that in 2015 they tested water near Coldwater Creek where soil was being remediated. To which I said, "That's not Bridgeton." And she said, "American Water is responsible for water that leaves the plant, and St. Louis County Health Department would be responsible for testing water from the tap for radionuclides." Keep in mind that County Executive Stenger just proposed a $3.9 million cut to the health department's budget for next year. $3.9 million budget cut from the County Executive Stenger. City Council meetings are held 6 p.m. every Tuesday, 41 South Central, and you must be early and sign up for 3 minutes to speak. So people in St. Louis are actively engaged, folks. So as my usual, I'm going to bounce back to my Dr. John Goffman story because I think this really talks about it, the ecocide. Science and technology are prominently applied in the service of the established system, whatever be the privileged currency. And this means that large-scale change comes very quickly and can affect the entire population of the country. We have learned to our dismay there may exist serious secondary implications of technological innovations or of byproducts of such innovations. These can take the form of severe environmental degradation or of an uncertain debt in the form of future health burden to society. Now, this was written in 1972, when 70 or something like that, when around the time when that secret transaction of burying the nuclear radioactivity in St. Louis was secretly sold, taken out of Bridgeton, and secretly buried over at Westlake Landfill, covered up with dirt, right next to a fuse wrap site, without regard at all to population. It would seem to accrue to the advantage of a nation, even ultimately to survival itself, to anticipate the secondary or adverse effects of technological innovation upon society. Oh, I beg your pardon, hold on. Had to get that cough out, folks. I apologize. Okay. We do not have appropriate institutions which will guarantee an early alert to potential, possibly subtle secondary effects of technology. If no early feedback information becomes available concerning potentially detrimental consequences, the technologically based industry grows apace, and the unanticipated detrimental effects will necessarily afflict the entire population. This is dangerous, and it would seem to compel rational humans to place a minimum value upon comprehensive foresight. Yeah, well, he was talking about rational human beings. What we're talking about is realizing we live in a freaking country of sociopaths. So if anybody wants to give us a call at 718-717-8106, I'd actually be delighted to see if this number actually really works. So on the days when I do not have guests, I'll be giving out this phone number so that people can give us a call and we can engage our listeners. And speaking of our listeners, I want to tell you thank you for listening to our radio show. I know that I'm all over the place. Often that seems to be how I operate. I'm sort of a type A person. I have all kinds of things going on at one time. I sort of manage things like that. But I really want to thank you for joining us and sharing our show and sharing our radio station with other people. We are an internet radio station, which means you have to make an extra effort. You can't just turn on your radio and listen to it or turn on Sirius Radio and listen to it. So I want to thank you for joining us, and thank you for sharing our podcast. You can listen to our podcast on UCY TV, on YouTube, or on the radio station. And as you know, this channel is run on contributions, so please do go to the website www.ucy.tv, hit the contribute button. Even if it's a little bit, every little drop helps. It does matter. And especially in the climate that we're about to be thrust into, where Obama, on the eve of his leaving, passed some legislation that's going to make it very difficult, and a lot of what's going to be said here will be challenged as fake news because, hey, just go to the website and just go to the Googles and put in a sentence that says what type of nuclear radioactivity causes heart attacks. You can't find it. I mean, I was looking for George Michael's death because intuitively, the guy's 50 years old. He dies of a heart attack. Why is that? We're going to start seeing that much more often. And in fact, if they do this, the Olympics in Fukushima or in Japan, we're going to be seeing all those young athletes dying of heart attacks and dropping off like flies. I bet you we have at least 2 or 3, 4 young athletes dying of heart attacks in the Olympics when that happens. Because we do know that it affects young people the most, and they're going to be training in a highly radioactive area and pressuring their lungs, putting all kinds of stress on their bodies. So, nuclear power and ecocide, an adversary view of the new technology. That's the title of this little snippet that I keep going back and forth on, because I go to the Westlake landfill page, and Westlake is exactly what John Goffman was talking about. Deleterious effects on the entire population. The entire population of near the Westlake landfill. Anybody living within that 3 to 5 mile range, guarantee our government doesn't test for radioactive contamination. They don't test it. That's what this post just said. This man asked if they had been testing for radioactive nuclides coming from the taps in the homes and businesses. And they were told, no, we're not, that's so-and-so's fault, that's so-and-so's fault, and that's their responsibility. And yet the county executive is proposing a $3.9, almost $4 million cut to the health department's budget next year in a place where everybody is getting sick. So this is just so beyond outrageous. So here is a little bit more for us to be concerned about because, we're coming into a new administration. Donald Trump's going to be inaugurated. I guess there was some kerfuffle yesterday over the GOP referring to him as the king. But Tune in radio, UCY TV. I just got a text. Okay, I apologize for the silence there. I just got a little message from Vince Easley, my friend Vince Easley. He says you can listen on the go too at tunein.com/radio/UCY TV. I did not know that, so that's really awesome. I did not know that. I'm going to look for it. So thank you, Vince, for telling us that. Even me, a year later, I didn't even know that. So that's awesome. We'll definitely listen to it. Tune in radio. That's great. I'm going to definitely look for it today. So Donald Clark shared this from Bob Alvarez on the Westlake landfill page, Alliance for Nuclear Accountability. After reading the questionnaire sent by the Trump transition team to the Energy Department, here's what I surmise they want to do. Number 1, identify feds and contractors who they want to marginalize, freeze all new federal hires, commence layoffs, ferret out all political appointees who may have been borrowed in, seriously curtail programs such as energy, renewables, and conservation. So this is just them deciding what they think they're going to do. We have no idea what they are going to do, but we do know that they're not going to be on the side of the people. It's pretty obvious that the Trump transition team is very pro-nuclear. They believe Donald Trump is living in New York City where tritium is off the charts, 65,000% higher than allowable limits, and it's leaking into the Hudson Bay, and Donald Trump lives there. Do you think he knows that information or even comprehends that it's a danger to himself? And there was some talk about his son being autistic. You know, autism is the number one of the very first things that happens when people are exposed to low-level radioactivity. So, I mean, if they've been living in New York and she's been flying, his wife was flying, we don't know. We don't know what causes this, and this is the hard part about us talking about radioactivity, radioactive contamination. It's the one industry where no one ever talks about it. There is no discussion. There's no discussion, no testing, nada, nothing, zero, zip. We're talking about we never hear about it. You never, ever hear anybody saying this was caused by radioactive contamination. Ever. We talk about lead in the water. We talk about chemicals in the water, the oil in the water. But talk about radioactive contamination, zero. That's their job to test for it. It's your job to test for it. Well, we're not testing for it. They're not testing for it. They never talk about it, folks. Why is that? This is what people need to get in their little brains, in our brains. We need to break out of the mold of our socially engineered, programmed brains. It is up to us to save our children and our grandchildren, because I don't know about you, but my children, they're not motivated. I've been doing this 3 years. They look at me as, ooh, I think I can do this. Let me see if I can do this. Good morning. You're on the air with Lonnie Clark. Let me see. Let me see if this works. Let me try this, folks. I don't think it's going to work. Hold on just 1 second. I don't think that works. I'm going to have to call Skype because that did not work. I tried to add it in. Let me see if I can add it in. I cannot add it in. So I'm going to call Skype today and talk to them about this because that number should be working. I spent quite a bit of time on this on Friday and it didn't work. So I am definitely going to call them, but I don't think it's going to work because it didn't say that I could add it in. When I added it into the call, it didn't happen. So I'm going to spend some time today calling Skype and telling them that we got to figure this one out because that's quite annoying. I saw the phone ring and it said add into your call, and then when I added it into my call, it did not do it. So I don't know why it didn't do that. So let me see. Let me do this backwards. Let me see if I can give that person a call. I'll give them a call and see if I can add them in. How about that? We'll see. Hopefully they'll still be there. So we have 7 minutes to see if this will work.
To an automatic voice message system.
No, that does not work.
Caster.
That was Hope. I wish Hope would call. Well, let's see if we can add her back in. I don't think I can add her back in. So, no, I can call her, but she can't call in. Doggone it. So we're going to have to really keep working on this. So I'm going to ignore this. Hold on. Let me see if I can try it again. Let me see if I can add her in. If she hangs up, I'll try to call her back. Hold on. Let's see if she'll answer the phone. We'll try it one more time. You know, perseverance brings success. We got to be clever. We got to figure things out because they are definitely going to be going after us.
Oh.
Hope?
Yeah, hey.
Hey, I called you back. I'm able to add you on the call, but for some reason I have to call Skype today because it wouldn't allow me to join you in the conversation. So we have about 5 minutes left. Thank you for joining us.
Well, you had wanted somebody to call in to see if the line would work.
Yeah,
And
well, obviously not. But it does. I can call you back, so maybe that's a way that we can do it, at least
well,
until we
that's
figure
good
it out.
anyway. Well, I'm glad you got to spend the holiday with your children, Lonnie.
Me too.
I think that's so great. I
It
got
was
to
really
talk to two of mine. Oh man, it's just even to hear their voices.
You know, that's
Hard
the
time
thing.
of year
This
for
is
me.
this is why we do this. It really, I mean, this is the thing. It's about our family. You know, I actually did connect with my siblings, one or two of them that I don't normally talk to, but it really gets down to it. They think I'm a complete lunatic because I won't stop talking about this, that I have changed my life to like be on the radio, that I pull up articles about John Goffman, that I read these articles on my YouTube channel. But look, that is part of the brainwashing that we really do need to overcome because we are being killed. My sister had thyroid cancer, had to have her thyroid out. Does she think it's from radioactivity? No. She's like, oh, well, we have a history of bad thyroid in our family. No, we don't. You know what I mean?
Well,
like, this is the ridiculousness. We are being told that we are sick. We are being told this is why we get this illnesses. But it's not the reality.
I get the same thing in steroids. I'm not only an anti-nuker, but the violation of privacy. And I hate to talk about all the time how I'm being violated and tortured. I hate it, but I have to because they have hurt other human beings. And it hurts me, and it's horrible. And the same thing with nuclear. It's a violation of people's rights. How do you think she got thyroid? Of course she got thyroid from nuclear. You know, thyroid cancer is one of the rarest diseases in the whole world. And yet we have an epidemic of it. I've had all three types of thyroid cancer. There's no way I wasn't exposed to nuclear energy. And the more people are in denial, the worse everything gets. They want to cling on to what little they have when they don't understand. That's why they're going to lose everything.
Well,
I mean, when you were talking about the Scram reactor at Columbia Generator, that is really serious, especially since radiation was still coming out after they scrammed the reactor.
That's right. And you know what?
Nobody wants to talk about it.
And we have people now in the Northwest getting colds and getting a flu. Well, really, even myself, I'm a little bit sick. And when I get sick like this, and you know, I wonder like how much I'm being affected. I live on the West Coast. I'm being bombarded. But this is the issue because we do not have a system where I could go to the doctor and say, hey, could you test my blood for radioactive contamination? They won't test you. They seriously won't test you, and it's super expensive, and nobody has the machines, and our whole system is designed to exclude looking at nuclear radioactive contamination. The entire medical system excludes that 100% across the board. That's the outrageousness. It's the most toxic, deadly waste that we've ever produced, and yet we have a medical industry that has been designed to exclude even looking at it. It's beyond.
You know, when I first got cancer, Lonnie, the first thing the doctor said is, oh, you had a fight with your boyfriend. Oh, you're unhappy. I was the happiest person in the world. I was getting straight A's. I was winning awards in theater. What was he talking about? I had a boyfriend that loved me madly. I was on cloud nine. I had a great life. Lonnie, radiation gives people cancer, not that they're in a bad mood, or not if they're angry, or not if they're a happy camper.
Well, you know what they want to do is they want to blame other contaminants like oil, like chemicals, because it's true. Those other things do actually cause. This is the thing, we're in a cacophony of other exposures, and that's in fact intentionally designed. They have done this intentionally. Right. So,
but it's hard with somebody like me with multiple cancers to not look right at that generator and say, this is why. We've had 11 nuclear reactors at
we have
Columbia
30
alone.
seconds left. We have less than 30 seconds. The number
to Merry Christmas. Let's make it a productive new year, and you're so right. Resistance is the only happiness. Prayer, faith, and hope is all I've had to go on for years.
Amen. Call Elliot Mainzer, 800-282-3713. Put your courage feet on, you guys. We'll talk to you